Of course, there probably is a snake farm.
There's a bunch of them all across the Southwest, and there's one down there in New Braunfels where I live, and it's between Austin and San Antonio, and I've driven by it probably 10,000 times. And one day I'd been reading some Flannery O'Connor, and one of my favorite quotes from Flannery O'Connor is, "Never second guess inspiration." So I'm driving along, I look over at the snake farm and I go, ooh. And
That was all it took.
that's all it took. And then,
Grab it.
And then, so I, the chorus, well, it's a snake farm. Ooh, it's not it's a reptile house. It's not a hospital. Ooh, it's nasty. Ooh, yeah. So I had that, and then so that was like the inspiration. And then the craft of songwriting was, what do I do with it?
Right.
And I said, well, I'll make it a love song. About a man who doesn't like snakes, and he's in love with a woman who works at the snake farm, and what kind of woman would
work at a snake farm? Yeah.
She'd like the alarm.
Yeah.
She'd have a tattoo, So it happens,
It's genius. That's just getting a little glimpse into genius as in the process. It's amazing.
Desperation, one or the other. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny, you have to be careful not get famous for doing things you don't really love to do, because you sing that song every night, probably, Snake Farm. It's one of your biggest hits.
There's times I've done it twice.
Yeah.
If it's a real, kind of a, rough crowd, I'll sing every other song.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
From Up Against the Wall, Redneck Mother to Snake Farm, you're covering some territory there.
Yeah, it is. It's but I have fun with it. Writing is I enjoy it, but I take my songwriting seriously. Even when I write a goofy song like Snake Farm, I say, well, I hope it's well written.
Yeah.
But I take myself lightly, and that works a lot better than taking myself too seriously.
Right.
So,
but weren't you an English major in college and stuff like that?
I was. Well, once I went to my first physics class, I said, I'm not going to do that. So I took. And my father was an English teacher. I grew up in Southeast Oklahoma. And he was a teacher, and then we moved to Dallas, and he was a principal and everything. So very young, he would read to me, but he wouldn't read like Three Little Bears or Three Little Pigs or anything. He would read like The Raven and Tale of Two Cities, and so really young. So I've got into reading literature about that.
We should probably draw a line between Edgar Allan Poe as a little boy and Snake Farm, because there's probably some connection there.
There's something about that,
Hugo, Oklahoma, is that where you lived?
Hugo, that's where I grew up. That's where I was born, a little town. It was,
I know. I used to play Bluegrass Festival.
Yeah,
there.
it's Hugo, Oklahoma. It used to be known as Circus Town, USA, where a lot of the circuses would make their winter
Near the
home.
Kiamichi Mountains.
Oh yeah, Kiamichi River and all that stuff. Yeah, I'm very familiar
Grand
with it.
Delia Bell. Yeah, I know all about that place.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm curious about this era that you sort of came up in. Having an interest in songwriting, songcraft, and language, and writing in general, and then finding yourself in New Mexico in the early '70s. And that, I'm just trying to imagine that scene, and I bet it was, maybe you could help me understand it, describe it a little.
In high school, I went to high school there in Oak Cliff, just a suburb of Dallas there, and at the same high school, when I was a sophomore, Michael Murphy was a senior, who's now, Michael Martin Murphy, cowboy guy, and great at that. But at the time, he was, a folk singer, and so he would sing in our assemblies, and we had a horrible football team. We had some great assemblies, and so Michael was like kind of the first guy that kind of got me into he was writing songs, and then I also went to high school with B.W. Stevenson, My Maria, and then formed a little folk group with Rick Fowler and Wayne Kidd, and then we ended up in Red River, New Mexico, and we actually came up to Colorado, I guess when I was 18 or 19 years old. Rick and I came up here, and we had a banjo and a guitar, and we would go into these, we'd just drive around and we'd pull into a little town like Breckenridge. We'd walk into a place, and he'd put on his banjo, and I'd put on a guitar, and we'd walk into these restaurants and go, "We're the Texas Twosome. We was wondering if we could maybe sing a couple of songs for a hamburger and a place to stay." And then we'd go into Foggy Mountain Breakdown, and no one ever turned us away.
Wow.
We always got a burger and a place to stay up here. So but
it's good use for bluegrass music.
It
right
really
there.
was. Yeah, it is. It'll keep you fed. But then we opened a little club in New Mexico, and it was kind of the stopping off place between Colorado at that time. and Austin, Jerry Jeff would come through, and Michael Murphy, and Steve Frommotes. And
What about
those
Eliza
guys.
Gilkison? Was she in that?
Yeah, she was in Santa Fe, I believe.
in
at the
Santa
time.
Fe
Yeah.
or Taos, and
So yeah, it was a very, it was a.
Terry Allen was in that neighborhood
yeah.
then. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was. And everybody was writing songs. I mean, there were great, songwriters. Then kind of, then Willie moved to Nashville, and Jerry Jeff. I mean, Willie moved from Nashville to Austin, and then
Yeah.
Jerry Jeff moved to Austin, Michael Murphy, and everything was, going great. It was, I mean, Rusty Weir. There was a whole great thing. And
Armadillo was cooking.
it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And then of course the movie Urban Cowboy came along and screwed it all up. Because then you had to, you would play everything with lighted dance floors and line
Mechanical
dancing.
bulls and stuff,
everything.
yeah.
So it wasn't about the music anymore; it was about
Right.
the scene.
A lot of good honky tonks turned into those kinds of places.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, things change, but I also I'm curious about when you had that song recorded by Jerry Jeff Walker, and it came out in '73 and was a big hit. What was that change like for you? What did that do in practical terms for your life then?
It gave me a middle name. I was a Ray Hubbard folk singer, and then on the album that they recorded there in Lukenbach, Bob Livingston gets up there right before it says, "This song is by Ray Wylie Hubbard," and Bob and I always had this thing about making fun of each other's middle name, and so Jerry left that on the record. So a lot of people, thought that was me singing it. And so I got a middle name out of that. Yeah. And I was Ray Wylie Hubbard, because of that. And
You probably also got some pretty nice checks.
Well, I still get I'll still get a check from, Japan for $18.40.
Yeah.
Just, once a year, something like that. So yeah, it's still out there, It's a song that refuses to die.
Yeah. But it was a thing that probably everybody was hoping would happen. You write a song and you hope that somebody would record it and it would get on the radio and it would be like it was a big deal. So suddenly you're one of the gang and you're.
Well, it was kind of at the time when he came out and did it. It was the only song I was known for. And so I'd go to these places to play. And I'd walk in there and I'd walk on the stage. They go, "Play Redneck Mother," and I go, "Okay." I played Redneck Mother. And I go, "Here's another song I wrote." And they go, "Play Redneck Mother again." So
I'm not a jukebox.
So it was.
Yeah.
So it was. But now it fits in the arsenal, and I have fun with it and everything. And so, but for a while, that was just the only thing to be known for was that.
Yeah. Well, I love the idea of that community. Towns Van Zandt coming up through New Mexico and into Colorado and. It was amazingly fertile territory. We were talking before about, Tommy Hancock and the Supernatural Family Band and the Flatlanders and all that stuff. But it's a cool scene that was percolating. I didn't get to see it in Austin proper, but I got there late 70s.
Well, it was really it was like I say, it was progressive because you had these little folk clubs at Guy Clark and Towns Van Zandt and Bill Moss and Alan Dammer and all these just great folk singers would just do this little circuit, and they'd come up to New Mexico and up to Colorado, and it was a lot of times sleeping on stages after the club closed and everything, and it was fun.
Yeah,
and
I bet it was fun. In case you just tuned in, you're listening to eTown. I'm here with Ray Wylie Hubbard. And there were blues guys around too. There was Freddie King and Vance Lipscomb
and Lightning Hopkins. Of course,
Lightning
that
Hopkins,
first lick I did was an old Lightning lick. I just love that. And I feel very fortunate. An old cat, man. I saw Vance and Lightning and Freddie King and Ernest Tubb and Gary Stewart. I see those great guys. And there was a club there in Dallas called Mother Blues that where Lightning used to play just on a regular basis. My wife was the door girl there. She. At 16, and I didn't know her at that time. But and then later on we ran into each other. I guess about 28 years ago.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, congratulations. That's a long time to be in a good, solid relationship.
Well, if she were here, she would say we've been married, 28 years, and then she would say the last 2 weeks hadn't been that bad. Or I would say it. One or the other. That's our running joke,
Well, we can learn all about that and much more in your new book, because you wrote a book after all these years.
I did write a book. In fact, I'm going to pick it up tomorrow. I fly back and I pick up a copy. It'll be available in November. And I started off. There's a wonderful writer named Tom Jurek who writes for All Music Guide. He's an old dear friend of mine, and we were just kind of emailing back and forth. And I wrote him sometime about when I was like 19 and hung out with Muddy Waters in Omaha and watched him get paid at the end of the gig. And he said, "That's a pretty interesting story." And I said, "Well, yeah." And then I talked to him another. I said, "Well, this is when Willie Nelson kidnapped me and carried me down, put me on his bus, and drove me to Milwaukee." And he said, "Oh." So I started, writing these road stories, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then
I'm glad you did.
well, they're pretty. It's pretty much the title of the book. I have to give you the title, but I have to use punctuation. It's life. It's a life. ... Well, comma lived. A life well lived, But it's also, like I said, it talks about when I was growing up in southeastern Oklahoma, and it's like part of it's like real literature. I used capital letters and punctuation and paragraphs and indentation like that. But then it's kind of got these stream of conscious just stories that I just kind of talk about things that happen, and then I put in some song lyrics. And at the also in the book is, of course, the secret of the universe.
Oh,
Really, I'm very serious. The secret of the universe. I tell what it is.
wow. So it's in there. It comes as a bonus. You don't have to pay extra for that?
I'll go ahead and tell you what it is right now, so you don't have to read the book if you want to. The secret of the universe, right, is an E chord without the third.
Ones and fives, man.
That's it. It gave me a career.
Yeah.
And so, but no, and like I say, it comes out next week, and I'm very proud of it. It's kind of talks about the growing up and getting into music and all that stuff. And then it's got road stories, but then it's also kind of at the end of it, I talk about in my 40s how I kind of came out of this fog I'd been in and wanted to be a real songwriter. And age 42, I overcame this fear of embarrassment and called up a fellow named Sam Swing and said, "Will you teach me how to finger pick?" Because I'd always just kind of didn't know, just kind of this goofy strum thing. So he showed me where to put my fingers and thumb and where to put them and when to put them there. And so I got into finger picking. And so I kind of talk about how, in my 40s, how I really wanted to try to be a real songwriter, and write. And I wasn't going to compromise. I wasn't going to write thinking about the future of the song. I wasn't going to write to try to get somebody to record it. I wasn't going to write to try to get a publishing deal. I was just going to try to write the best song I could that hopefully this song would, contribute. I was going to try to write songs to see what I could contribute rather than what I could just get by.
Yeah.
And so it kind of changed my perspective on
interesting.
songs. It was interesting because, I took hopefully the time to, like I was talking there about inspiration and craft and purpose and removing your fear and doubt and time and effort.
Is there a part of that? Because Stevie Ray Vaughan figures in one of these stories, doesn't he, in terms of helping you kind of see this transition a little? He
was very, very instrumental in trying to, when after my dad died, I kind of took off the deep end and was really, I used all my, fun coupons. And it wasn't fun anymore, and so Stevie got with me, and he was, took the time to talk to me. I hadn't known him, we'd known each other, but it was always in a studio late at night, and we were both pretty tore up. But then he had gotten clean and sober, and he came and talked to me, and then he said, "This is what he did," and so it was really and helped me, a lot.
Well, it's amazing. It's not amazing. It's actually not really even surprising that as a curious person, your journey takes you these various places, and in theory, you're going to learn along the way, and you're going to get some knowledge and you're going to get some experience, and it's going to help you find a closer path to what you're aiming at. You're going to get closer to it.
Well, it's like I say, I'm an old cat, but for me, it's it's learning new things. Like at 42, I learned to finger pick.
Yeah.
A little bit later on, I learned open tunings. Then I learned slide. Then I got a mandolin. And so by learning new things, that gives the song a door to come through that wasn't there before.
Yeah.
Like if I hadn't learned open D tuning, I wouldn't have got Too Young Ripe or Ask God or any of those songs. So for me, it's learning new things, which my wife says that's fine as long as I don't want to learn to play the banjo.
Oh, man, he slides in a banjo joke.
I know.
I'm a bluegrass guy.
I'm
Come on. Anyway, we are going to go and get to hear some of these more songs. Because one of the great things about being a songwriter who's making new records and making new songs and doing all this is you're going to be out there playing. And I notice you're busy. You're working a lot these days.
I am. The record came out. The Ruffian's Misfortune came out last April. And we just said, well, let's just do it. Because there was a lot of years in the past I didn't work. And so we're out there doing field work.
I mean, I saw you, a week ago or something in Bristol, Tennessee?
Yeah, that was our second time there. And then we're going to Nashville soon, and then we're going back to Los Angeles, then up to New York.
You even got an outlaw cruise.
Yeah.
That's an oxymoron if I ever heard one.
Yeah, it's it really is. It's the outlaw country thing or whatever, and so we're going on a cruise. So I've decided that I'm going to make sure that I take an electric shaver and a dress, just in case something happens, and it's women and children first.
The noble savage.
I tell you what, after listening to that woman do all that generous stuff that she was doing, I mean, God,
The woman in Detroit.
Yeah,
Veronica.
I mean, I feel like a stain. She was, I was so, it was great.
We've all got our ways to contribute.
Yeah, but now we're
including you, Ray.
Going on the cruise. Got the book, and I think I'm going to try to do one of these kind of instructional videos. Somebody asked me sometime or something about that, about my kind of old Lightning Hopkins dead thumb thing that I do, and so I might try to do that next.
All right. Well, stay busy, but meanwhile, we got to go play some music.
Let's do it.
All right. Let's welcome back Ray Wylie Hubbard. Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.